And here we go. This is episode number 1. Mike, are you ready?
Yes.
Kristin? She doesn't have her microphone
She's
on.
thumbs up.
She gave us a thumbs up. Episode number 1, we're going to interview our friend, the local legend, Jesse Shimrock. We find about his Irish heritage, his feelings on the Yog River corridor. Yes, they're building a path, or trying to. How he won the King of the Yacht, and what the heck that actually is. We hear about his trips around the world, his best honey drunken bar story, and how he beat me up on my 30th birthday. So, Mike, hit the intro. Let's go.
Here we are, episode 1, Not Salty Podcast.
It's kind of 2. We practiced last
Oh, yeah,
week.
good point. That was the pilot.
We did a pilot episode last week where we're going to make little clips and teasers and whatever. And
We've been picked up by the network, so we have a full season ahead of us.
We have 0 sponsors.
Yeah.
You're committed.
We're our own sponsors.
Welcome, Jesse.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jesse Shamrock?
It was Shamrock, yeah, and then they put an I in it to not confuse it with
Shimrock.
the rest of the leprechauns around here.
Americanize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Shimmy?
Actually, no. It was like Zimmerowski. It comes from the Hungarian side.
Oh,
And
that's right.
when my family was coming over at the time, and I know this sounds weird,
Oh, this
but
is
they
legit?
were actually, yeah, this is
I thought
legit.
you were making this up.
They were hiring Irish in the particular area where they were. So to sound more Irish, my brilliant ancestors were like, what sounds Irish? Shamrock. Shimrock. Perfect. And that's how we got that. But Liz and I just sent away for DNA testing, so I'm about to really start telling the stories.
Which brand did you go with?
Surprise, you're German.
I don't know. She bought them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just swab and go.
You don't have any siblings, right?
No. Tiger
So
Claw.
why don't we, before we get into this, let's set up the episode.
Yeah.
This is our friend Jesse Shimrock. He's apparently Irish, and we've known Jesse forever and a day. Not to make your head any bigger, but a little bit of a local celebrity, good guy. We'll get into all of the cool stuff he's done in a minute. And most importantly, he volunteered to be our very first guest. So, Mike, you've done a little bit of homework on Jesse. Set it up.
Well, yeah, I was actually just thinking, because I live in Friendsville, that they fixed the dam just in time for you to get the King of the Yacht.
They did,
that
yeah.
right?
That was a tremendous amount of suspense this year. It was supposed to happen in July,
Yeah.
which I was actually shooting for that. And then it's like, oh, it won't be fixed until August or maybe September or hell, even October. And so I kind of started to fade away the motivation. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's back on. And yeah, we scrambled some training in
How much notice
King
did
of
you
the
have?
Yacht.
So what's
2 weeks.
Oh, to get ready. So
Hold on, explain to us what King of the Yacht is. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a funny backstory to this. I don't know what it is, didn't know what it was. And I ran into you the night after you won. And Jesse had a buddy with him there, and his buddy was like so stoked. This guy was like going cloud 9 because Jesse won King of the Yacht, and Jesse was the best athlete ever. And like this dude, I'm sure you remember, like he was pumped. Like he was Jesse's hype man. He was happy as hell. And I look at Jesse and I was like, "You won?" You're like, "Yeah." Like to me, it didn't look like you were surprised at all. Like I'm sure you actually worked hard and you were actually stoked, but I don't know. That's kind of a thing of a true athlete. Like your buddy was more excited for you than you seem to be. And so what is the King of the Yacht?
Yeah.
He was excited because of who I beat. And the backstory on that is there's a guy that just keeps winning. There's 2 races on the Yacht River, the Top Yacht race, and everybody knows Swallow Falls State Park.
Yeah.
So that race is in the springtime, and it starts above Swallow Falls and races all that whitewater that all the tourists get to see. The Upper Yacht race, which is the big coveted one, is the long race. That's the entire Yacht Canyon down there. So this spring, I did really train for that. I actually did the viral,
75.
the viral 75 hard
I
thing.
did Fenton 60 soft with you.
You did, yeah. He was inspired. But it works too. So that's, it was a selling point for that thing. But
For the listener at home, what is what did you say?
75 hard.
75 hard. Yeah. Well, if you didn't pay attention to social media in the last year, what 75 hard is 75 days of no alcohol, 2 45-minute workouts a day.
Reference.
Yeah. You got to read 10 pages of a book and stick to a diet. And there might have been one other thing. I can't remember, but it's really all about 90 minutes of workout and no alcohol for
Dude, I've never
75
heard about
days.
that. So you take 75 days
Straight.
Don't drink, 2 workouts a day, and read?
And read, yeah.
And a diet, whatever your diet is.
Which
You're
I know
just
why they
supposed to
did the
stick to
read
it,
part,
yeah.
because at the end of the evening, it actually shuts you down, or it
Yeah.
shuts me down.
Yeah.
So it's because I got all this energy. Anyway,
Usually if I read like one page, I fall asleep.
Yeah, me too.
Paragraph.
At night,
Yeah.
especially.
me too. And that's the beauty of
It's
that.
called getting-
I don't know what that.
Okay, so that was how you practiced, and then that's how you trained. What
Yeah,
is it?
trained and then won the race and beat a guy named Jason Beeks, who has probably won that thing a dozen times and historically has won it year after year. And so I figured I'd give him a proper run for his money this year.
So like a big rivalry, or just a dude who was really good at it, and you were like, I'm gonna beat you?
He's a big racer, a big kayak racer, and there's been different times in my kayak career where we've ended up head to head, and so we definitely have a rivalry. And we also raced each other again last weekend at the Upper Yak race.
Do you
win?
race all
I
at the
did
same
win, yeah.
time, or it's one at a time and it's your time, your final time?
In this race, you race one at a time. Yeah, that might be chaos releasing
gonna
70
say,
Yeah, I
people.
was gonna
How
say.
would they do that?
So wait,
They
what
do it all
happened-
over the hill here on the
Is that-
Cheat River.
is
They
that
do
right?
the Cheat River mass occurrence, which is sometimes 100 people mass start on the Cheat.
That's insane.
A lot bigger.
So the water pretty much flows the same. So if you race now and he races an hour, it's kind of always kind of the same.
Oh yeah, it is the same because they're releasing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Deep Creek. So that's why and you had mentioned you were doing this and you did the top yacht race and you won that, but then you weren't sure if you were going to be able to do the upper because the dam wasn't releasing.
Yeah. This is the first year in pretty much the history, and I think it's really important for everybody, including all of us and the users, to understand that Deep Creek Lake is not attached to the Youghiogheny River, even though the water from Deep Creek goes into it when they release from the dam.
How does that work?
It's kind of wild. It goes through tubes in the mountain, like a good mile and a half, and then it comes into the river just above Hoy's.
What?
That's brand
Yeah.
new information.
never knew
that.
I never knew that.
That is,
You heard it here first, folks.
yeah,
Apparently.
Who knew that?
yeah. It's this magical river that.
Wow.
So when it rains, the river rises naturally. There's
Yeah.
no dam upstream to inhibit water flow.
Yeah.
And then we also, in the summertime, get these releases every Monday, Friday, and Saturday, which has supported rafting companies for decades. And they've never had to actually decommission one of the turbines. There's 2 of them. So it takes 2 to make a whitewater release, and we only had 1 all summer long.
Ah.
Do you work with Brookfield? Do people from rafting companies like work hand in hand with them to release?
Oh yeah, it's a big interest group. Actually, there's quite the historic battle between the downstream interest people, the whitewater companies, the Youghiogheny Reservoir, the Ohiopal rafting organizations down there, and then our lake owners, lake property owners. Because once we start to get to this time of year where there's still allocated whitewater releases, you do have people back in these coves that were kind of shallower coves that maybe can't have their boat in the water for a few weeks. So I've been to a bunch of those meetings over the years, kind of representing the whitewater side, but also as a real estate agent. Now I'm on both sides of this fence.
Well, speaking of which, how do you feel about the? You and I have talked about it, but give us the scoop on the trail that's being built on the Yak.
Hold on, back up on this. 'cause
Wait.
I don't know about this, right? I heard about it a couple weeks ago.
What is
The
it?
proposed trail.
They're Garrett County, I guess. Jesse will fill us in.
Yeah.
Is planning on spending $4 million
Yeah.
to build
4.6.
a trail down the Youghiogheny River, the Yog River, from Deep Creek to Friendsville, right? And then hold on, and then to me, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that sounds sweet. Everybody will walk down there and have picnics and stuff. It sounds great, but you don't like it.
Well, this is a great topic. So
This is what he is salty about.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call it salty. So to clear that up a little bit, the trail would go from Friendsville to Sang Run.
Okay.
Sang Run State Park, which is a new state park in the last couple of years. The issue, regardless of what side you're on, is that whole entire section of river and the section above Sang Run is all considered the Youghiogheny Wild and Scenic River, which is a designation that was an act put in place in the state of Maryland, which means that this river is protected by legislative measures. And there's an entire management plan. It was created in 1996 that goes through everything that Comar regulations, what's allowed, what's not allowed inside the corridor, how DNR is the managing party, and anything that would happen in there and any changes that may occur to the management plan actually require the public input and the input of another organization called the I don't remember the name of it, but
Well,
it's
that's a
a
pretty
group
big
of people
deal,
that
too,
take care of
right?
the.
Isn't there only 7 waterways that are protected like that? I get to back.
Well,
check
there's
that.
only one in the state of Maryland.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big deal that river is that protected.
It's a huge deal.
Okay.
It's a huge deal. And it doesn't mean we can't use it. Doesn't mean you can't paddle into it. Doesn't mean you can't hike into it. It just means that you can't build a 7-8 foot wide 2-lane bike trail with improved surfaces all the way from top to bottom and multiple bridges that would cross the river, which would be required for that to actually happen. So when I initially heard about it, I was kind of in the same seat as you, John. I was like, a trail?
Sounds nice.
I live at the put-in.
Right.
I live at the trailhead for this place. I'm going to get old one day. I can't kayak the river. Maybe I'll throw my kids in the back of an e-bike and fly down to National Falls and do some fishing. And then I really started to think about what this trail meant, and then also what that river means to me and a lot of the other people that have had an opportunity to go in there and experience what wild and scenic means. And I'll give you a great example. This summer, because we didn't have the whitewater releases, there was nobody was going in there for weeks on end. But I would still paddle sometimes whenever we'd get one of those low releases. I'd just go in with at low water by myself. And at one point, there was probably 2, maybe 3 weeks where I know nobody had been in there by water. And as I paddled into the canyon, I saw more wildlife blast out of the trees and out of the water. I saw mink, I saw river otter, I saw multiple bald eagles, osprey, blue herons. It was like I had entered a wild place and they were there to let me know that it was theirs. And that was just in a matter of a couple weeks. So if you take that away, which you would take that away, you can never get that back. It's gone for good.
You see it at the Wisp. Like, you'll notice it with their golf course. If you're up there, like the animals where they built the golf courses, I don't know much about this stuff, but you'll notice there's bears and turkeys and everything that used to live up there and now walking around the golf course. That makes sense. And I don't think your average person thinks about what you said. I never did.
Yeah. And I mean, we have a ton of areas that deserve a lot of trail development around here and that are ripe for it, and trails that we have that are in need of massive amounts of
Like Big
maintenance
Savage.
and things like that. So I went to the public meeting where our delegate and senator were to explain where the money came from. And it sounded to me like they just really didn't want to turn down the money to Garrett County. It's not a set in stone thing. Hopefully what ends up happening, this is my kind of dream result of this, is that, we get $4.7 million in Garrett County to do trail maintenance, build new trails in areas that are designated for trails, and even improve upon the trails inside the yacht corridor that already do exist. Seems like kind of the win-win in that situation. But yeah, I'm on the Keep the Yacht Wild program.
Hopefully people listen to this, because that's a good point to bring up. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think that. Like, and I didn't think it was an 8 foot wide trail like you talked about. Maybe it's not, or 7, whatever. But I wouldn't have thought about it displacing animals or doing what you just said. Like, I don't think you're ever. My first thought was, sweet, sounds like a nice little trail, and I bet you a lot of people here are probably thinking.
Yeah, there's a lot of access points. It requires a little bit of sweat equity to get in there. And yeah, I'd be happy to take you in there
That
sometime.
may be good, right? You don't want me going down there and plopping my canoe in there. I would probably die.
Well, that's a
Give me
really
a
good
good-
point, Sean.
Give me a good paved trail. I'm going to come up here on vacation. Be like, I'll put my canoe in here and go over National Falls, and that'll be the end of it. But
Well, aside from the fact that you got 9 miles of wilderness in the middle of nowhere, it is a Class 5 river that also gets whitewater releases with no announcement. So imagine this: family of 4 does end up on this bike trail. They go in. They're like, "Ooh, this looks like a nice swimming hole." They swim in at National Falls. They go out on one of the rocks, and then boom, the whitewater release comes down. It only takes a couple minutes for that river to fill up. And now they're stranded on the middle of a rock in the middle of a Class 5 rapid with 2 little 7-year-olds that are like going to die if they jump in the river.
and they have no idea that's coming. I'd actually
Right.
forgot
And
that.
there's nobody around.
I was down by Streams and Dreams one time. This has been 10 or 15 years ago, and I didn't realize it was the dam release day or whatever. And we were out there, and it was easy. I'm talking like 10, 18 inches of water, not much. And then it didn't come up in a minute, but it came up in maybe 20 minutes. You think? Like, I mean, it wasn't long. Like, if I would have been on the other side of the river with a bunch of kids like you're talking about and had to get to this side, we would have been stuck. But
It happened to me last night. I was fishing, sang run, and totally unscheduled flow thing. I was out there. I'm like, what is going on? The fish are hitting like crazy because right when the release comes in, they just start going nuts. It's like pushing all these bugs into their mouths. And then all of a sudden I realized my waders were up to my stomach.
and you know
Look,
it.
I'll be
Like,
damned.
you actually know what to do.
Exactly. You probably have some idea of what to look for.
Yeah,
So
it
even,
hit pretty quick.
Wow.
I'm kind of hoping this podcast goes into a couple things to educate people about more than just Deep Creek Lake. Like, a lot of people in Maryland know what the lake is. It's awesome, right? I don't think a lot of people, including me, even understand the significance of the Yog River. Man, I don't even know if you were alive back then, but what year were you born?
If you're going to go to the savage thing, I was alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fill us in on this. I've heard the stories from my father-in-law and some other people's friends, but like 1986, they had the savage, like, wait, tell us what it is, because I don't know what it is.
89, right?
Well, they had 2. They had
yeah.
the World Championships, and then they had the Olympic team trials for the U.S. Olympic team, both of which were slalom kayaking, which is racing through the gates. It's what you can watch on TV in the Olympics still to this day.
So the world, like, so go back in the 80s, the organization got together and they could have picked a ton of rivers, okay? And this one would probably pick because of easy access, maybe from the cities or whatever, but then also just because it's an amazing, good river. Is that why?
Yeah, well, it fills all the voids that you need. So it's got a dam above it, which is the Savage River Reservoir, which is nice, clean water. They don't allow motors or anything on that. The whitewater's fantastic, but more so perfect for that style of kayaking. And a road runs the whole way down it. And then there's state of Maryland, and we have the capital of the United States right down there. So it was a kind of prime opportunity to showcase Mountain Maryland.
How many
It's
times?
a pretty special place. It's something you don't want to
yeah.
it's something you want to put a lot of thought in before you go put in a path.
Yeah, and they put bridges across it for the event. They did a ton of infrastructure there. I went there as a kid, and I was into the kayaking. It was the first time I really saw it on a competitive level. It's probably what sparked kayaking, but they also had a climbing wall there, and I spent the whole entire day on the climbing wall. But now, if you go down there, all those bridges are pretty unused, and things are kind of going back to nature. And it's
good.
what it originally was, which is a world-class trout fishery because of that deep cold water lake above it. Yeah, it's fine. They still do whitewater releases, and a couple times a year you'll see masses of people go down there and do and paddle on the release.
I know they got a lot of the ASI graduates or people who are going to school there. Like when Mogi was going to school there, my friend Mogi, for people who don't know him, they used to go drive the shuttle for the release. Of the
So I don't know
Savage.
Mogi, but we hear about Mogi a lot. I think we should have Mogi on the show sometime. Do you know Mogi?
I do, yeah. I think he'd be great if for nothing else, just his voice.
Yeah, he's got a great voice, and also he's salty that I'm on another podcast and not on the podcast that we started. So I'd like to get I'd like to know his feelings about that.
Just to throw it up one more time, because you brought it up last time too. This is Mike's second podcast. The first one he tried never aired, but
Yeah, we had 5 or 6 episodes, and we couldn't stop saying our names. So we wanted to remain anonymous because, like, Mogi's a teacher and I'm in real estate, and we just talked about stuff that you probably don't, want anybody to know who you are. And then, except for Ross. Ross was like, yeah, I don't care, whatever. So, we never got a chance to air it. And then Ross and Mogi got into a fight, and
that was that.
That was that. We haven't gone back since. It was a walk-off. It was legit walk-off Zoom. Yeah.
Live.
Well, no, not live.
Oh.
Recorded.
so,
There's documentation.
Yeah.
So you grew up here. Your parents are from Friendsville. Hey, I think I finally got my mic right. It sounds more normal to me. Hopefully it sounds right to you guys. But so you grew up here, grew up in Friendsville, went to Northern High School. Lay it up and mess it up. Make sure I don't mess it up. You were Northern High School state wrestling champion all 4 years of high school?
No. Well, that'd have been great. I don't think anybody's done that. But I
think
was
that
in the
other guy
state
did.
finals twice, and I won my senior year. And I think that it was the first undefeated season for a
Okay.
Northern wrestler. That was the
So that was
claim
your
there.
sport of choice in high school, was wrestling.
Oh, well, maybe my dad's sport of choice.
Dude, we should have your dad
Kayaking
on
was
here.
my sport of choice in high
His
school.
dad would be so good.
Man, I haven't spent a lot of time with your dad, but I've spent some time with your dad. He's a cool dude. Like,
Oh, he is a
Hold on.
quiet
am I doing it
beast.
wrong? So explain to the story. Is this legit? Like, your dad was one time telling me, and I don't know, it's been a long time ago. He'll sleep outside on the porch sometimes just because it makes his back not hurt. Or doesn't your dad just walk outside and sleep sometime on the deck, like in a sleeping bag, just because he wants to?
Yeah, that I don't think it has a whole lot to do with his back as much as it has to do with my mom wanting
Santa Claus.
his sense and sounds to be somewhere else.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they
So that was his side of the story.
yeah, he's always got a good twist on things like that.
So speaking of your dad, so is your mushroom like your morel honey hole? Is that a legacy? Like, did your dad find that, or is that
Well,
something
we
that you
gotta
guys
we
found
gotta
together?
correct this one for the record. So
Okay.
my dad has the morel honey holes.
Okay.
And those are not allowed to be mine until he's ready to be done with them.
Okay.
Are we going to put an
But-
app location on the podcast? Is that going to be out there?
I don't think you can
You would
do
have
that.
to sell
Put it
that.
on,
Yeah,
Mike's-
yeah,
Put
right.
it on
Be
Mike's
worth
app,
fortune.
the camping app.
Yeah. I'll put it on this new adventure
For the
map.
listeners at home, what in the world's a morel?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a. Well, I'll give my chef take. Right, they're something like. Oh no, that's truffles. I was thinking like 1,000 an ounce, but they're just a delicacy.
Mushrooms.
and they're mushrooms.
Just
Yeah,
grow in the wild.
they grow in the wild.
Have you
They're-
ever eaten the wrong one?
I don't think they have.
I mean, I'm still here, so
look-alike.
Like, I like mushrooms, dude. I'm down with mushrooms. I'd
Yeah.
be scared to death to walk to the woods and pick up the wrong mushroom because then
You really shouldn't, but there's
it'd be fun.
gills. The gills kill, right?
Yeah.
So if they have like if gills are more like ribs, and then they have like the not gills. I don't know what the hell. Mandy would be a good one to ask. She's the one who told me to bring this up because she.
well,
wants
he's
to know.
talking about the fake morels.
Yeah, but I don't think they have a lookalike that will kill you, do they?
They do, yeah.
They do,
There's the
okay.
morel and then the fake morel.
Oh, okay.
And
And that's the
and you can tell the
scientific
difference.
name.
You know what they look like.
I can 100% tell the difference. I actually found a fake morel this year over in Sang Run. But if you know what you're looking for, with most mushrooms, you're going to be fine. But if you don't know, that's why you probably
You
shouldn't even
do
go.
it. Yeah,
do you find one
uh-huh.
or two
Then
of
you
them,
know
or do
you
find
shouldn't
like
be
a whole
looking.
Pound, like,
Well, let's
check
put
his,
it this
check
way.
his,
No,
check
no,
his
it's probably got a
Instagram.
good spot.
For the people out here that may be
I
viewing
get zero
this,
homework for this, apparently.
you see this
This
room
is
that we're
yours.
in? This okay, that's mine. Yeah, this room that we're in.
We can put both cameras on. if you want.
Imagine putting screens across this whole room, being held up by chairs, this entire room,
Yeah.
and then fill the screens with morels.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my dad's big hauls.
Do you
Like
eat them? all, or do you
1,300
sell
morels.
them, or give them to your friends? Or?
Oh, he's so cool thing. Cool fun fact about
Yeah.
morels. You can dehydrate them
hmm
and then you can rehydrate them.
Yeah, they're good with that.
Yeah, they reconstitute well and they flavor that water. So he dehydrates them. He makes bisques. He makes pastas. it ends up being like a 3-month ordeal of food,
So
and then
Mandy's been-
frozen for the next.
So we
2.
need to have him on here so he can make us spaghetti with morels.
No, you want his morel bisque.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll bring
that
that.
sounds delicious.
People
Ma-
will stop on the side of the road and pick them in front of my house.
I mean, if they find them, yeah, that's
No, they're there. They're right
They
at our
are?
mailboxes. I live in
Nice.
an undisclosed location.
That's gonna be real
They're
hard to
across the
find.
street though, but people will literally pull over in my driveway and they're at our mailbox picking them. It's a huge thing in Garrett County to
Yeah.
find morels if you see them on the side of the road.
You need to call me when they come.
So that's what I was going to ask you. And for
I don't like
anybody
them.
listening, obviously, not obviously to you, but Mandy's my wife. So if I say Mandy, that's who I'm talking about. She'll be on
Oh,
eventually.
that's
We're
right.
gonna
Good call,
we'll have a spouse run episode or something like that down the road. But she told me, she was like, can you like blindfold her or something and just take her so she can just see them in the wild? But obviously, I guess you're not privy to the morel spot, right?
Oh, your
Yeah,
dad
I-
didn't even tell you?
And I've been to a couple of his spots with him. Yeah. But I think the chanterelles is the thing that sparked your mushroom chat here.
Because
The
you have a chanterelle.
massive.
Yes,
honey
yeah.
hole,
Uh-huh.
Don't even know the difference.
Mm-mm.
What's a
Chanterelles,
chanterelle?
yeah,
Chanterelles are orange, morels are gray
yeah.
or yellow.
Or yellow, right, yeah.
So
And-
if we find a random mushroom, we need to bring it to Jesse and be like, hey, should we eat this?
yeah, snap
That'll
a
probably
picture.
cause
And
a
if
lot
it's
of people to
good,
cringe.
if it's good, he's going to say, no, let me take that for you. And there you go.
Yeah. Well, there's a really bad fake chanterelle.
Yeah.
The pumpkins.
Yeah, do they call? They're not jack-o'-lantern, right?
Jack-o'-lanterns. Yeah,
Yeah.
they glow in the dark.
So this is right up Mike's alley. Like last time we were talking about it, Mike talks about it a bunch. Mike's dream is to go in the woods for 3 days and live off the land. And you can drink on camera. It's okay. I have been.
He's
Well,
doing
I
the
would
ice.
then chew the ice, and nobody wants to hear that.
Oh, it might, no, that,
cut it
that
out.
would be annoying. Can you edit that out?
Yeah, I can. I might miss it if I'm not listening closely, but I usually listen to it.
Not even as loud as I thought.
I'm actually going to take that and put that into the
yeah,
intro
that's
song.
our sample.
Nice. Well, so I wasn't even planning on drinking, and Kristin gave me a hard time about drinking. I looked over and she was drinking water. So
No, it's
she's
a
got
high
a
noon.
high noon.
And I just for the record, it's empty.
It's like a White Claw,
that
right?
looks a lot like water.
All
So I
right.
forget what we were.
That's
okay,
our beer
so you were go back to Jesse because you did. I don't know. One of my favorite things about you is you're not cocky. Like you man, I can't do 10% of the stuff you do, and you don't go around acting like you're better than anybody else. It's one of my favorite things about you, and it kind of goes back to. I don't know. I don't think I met you till you were out of high school. I remember when I met you. This is kind of a funny story. Jesse and I both worked at Deep Creek Brewery, right? Or were you not there yet?
No, I wasn't there.
I worked at Deep Creek Brewery. How did I know you? So
Is that where Green Turkey
Well, I
is?
can tell you
No.
how I think that we got
golf?
connected in the beginning.
Was it golf?
No, it was Stony Brook.
Was it? But we were playing. It was like a golf outing, right?
No, Mike.
you were one of my first customers, or your mom was. You were real young. You were like maybe 16, 17, 18, or 20. I don't know. You were super young. And I had just got my real estate license, and you were trying to convince your mom to buy an investment property. We were all
What's
through
Stony
like,
Brook?
Now that may actually be true. I don't remember that, but that's because that was like pre-transcendent.
Stony Brook was my first real estate job. I didn't always work for Bailey Realty. That's
So it was
story
a
for another time.
brokerage.
Yeah. It was a
Oh,
brokerage.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Oh.
Let's dig this one up because the
I might have to tiger claw a couple things. In this.
yeah we don't have to dig so much, but you were an agent there. I was like maybe fresh out of college and trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do at the time. And Mike Green was like, "Oh, you should sell log homes."
Dude, okay, that's right.
And so I'm in Stony Brook with you
Yep. Okay.
trying to sling some log homes,
right.
and you were selling real estate.
So
there.
Mike Green, like the guy who does the docs, the
Oh,
same
yeah,
same
no.
Mike Green. Okay,
Mike Green's all part of this. Way back in the beginning,
no doubt.
I was starting to sell real estate. There was a guy named Lou and all these people. And I started selling real estate. And the guy, Lou, wanted to start building log houses. We got Mike Green to be the salesman for log houses. And then Jesse came on board. And I'd forgotten that. And that might be the golf tournament I'm thinking about. And I'm sure there's beer involved while I was thinking about the brewery. But I just remember I was just getting to know you. And I think it was probably the day I met you or the second time or whatever. And we were playing golf for a charity event. And I don't know, I was having a hard time getting a putt in. And I look over and you were just doing a handstand. Like my very first, my first legit memory of you is
sounds right.
it's like probably me, you, Mike Green, and somebody else playing golf for a charity event, which I suck at golf, and you were already winning everybody. So
It's probably Heslop
yeah, it was
or
prob-
Ringer.
And then so I just look over, and not only is Jesse putting, but he's doing it while doing a handstand. And I was like, who the is this guy?
Yeah,
Um,
golf needed some
So you never worked
three-dimension
at Deep
to it.
Creek Brewery? You were never there? That
No,
was in my
never
mind?
did. Most friends worked there along the line, but
Someday we'll have to talk about that. I think we're going to interview Aaron from Mountain State
Mm.
Brewery at some point in time, maybe the next one. But a lot of people don't know this. Before her, there was Deep Creek Brewing Company here. And
yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day. That was started by a guy named Dave Saba. And I think Rayleigh Realty even sponsored some of it. I know Jimmy was part of it, I think. But he was just ahead of his time. Like this would have been early 2000s. He started Deep Creek
Where
Brewing
was
Company
it?
here. Where Green Turtle.
Turtle.
Oh, okay, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Well, no, it was by the movie theater. The very first Deep Creek
Oh.
Brewing Company was the little restaurant across from the movie theater.
Well, wasn't it called like Moby's or something?
No, I even take that back. Before that, we were bottling beer in John Simpson's garage. So the very first, like I was right out of college, and the very first Deep Creek Brewing Company here, if I remember right, was Dave Saba got the idea to start brewing beer. We were brewing it and bottling it in John Simpson's garage on, I don't remember what road it was on, over by Julie's Greenhouse. And then from there, they opened up a restaurant where Moby's was, but it was called Deep Creek Brewery. And then from there, it went to Green Turtle, which was Santa Fe before that. But the craziest thing is, I remember I was bartending there, and nowadays, microbrews are super popular. People would come in back then and be like, ugh, what is this? And it was really good beer. I mean, it was great beer. This
Way
is
before its time.
it was 20 years ahead of his time. Like people would
Yeah.
come into a
Wow.
brewery back then and they get so mad we didn't have Miller Lite. Like it sucked to be a bartender. I'm like one of the first guys in the world being, hey, you should try an IPA. And they're like, ugh. Nowadays they're the most popular thing ever. Like this
See,
dude
back
was,
then it was just Sierra Nevada is all you could get for IPAs, right?
it was probably
Yeah.
Sierra
Yeah, that was
Nevada
the
and
heavy.
Deep Creek Brewing Company. Like that
Wow.
was probably it back then. And
That's
he was
fun.
just 20 years ahead of his time. I'm still friends with him on Facebook. He's somewhere down in Texas now, but that'd be a neat story too.
I got to ask you. So,
We still don't have a brewery in Deep Creek.
Well,
Just
I know.
not here, but you had mentioned something about a distillery, right? But I got before we get there. So, is still brewing? Is that like distilling and brewing, or you guys are still brewing, or
We
is
don't
it,
know what that is. Set it up because that's really cool. What is still brewing?
Yeah. Okay. What is still brewing? What is the still brewing?
well, it's the greatest rock and roll band ever come out of Garrett County.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Those are fighting words.
Well, we got the rowdy boys making
Bred-
noise over here.
bred on the
with
mountains of
further
White
words.
Rock.
Yeah, but we're not a rock and roll band, so
Oh.
yeah.
All right, classify rock and roll. What's your most popular song?
No,
What's your favorite
actually,
song to play?
still brewing is the definition of a bunch of good time and guys playing rock and blues, and that's what we are. But it was all spawned from a trip that I was gone on a trip. I came home. A couple of my buddies were like, "Hey, we're trying to learn some guitar songs, and you play guitar." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll come over." And they literally had the iPad out, with the musician app or
Yep.
one of those apps going on. And I'm like, oh, we got to get away from this right now. And threw that away and just started listening to music and figuring out songs and playing it a little more, oh God, this word, organically,
Yeah.
But it's what spawned this brotherhood of friends to start playing music together officially. And then we pulled in a drummer for better or worse and got a ringer lead guitar player and started playing music.
Is that Grub you talking about?
Yeah, he's from the South and he grew up with his fingers dabbled in Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead, all that stuff.
Oh,
So
it
he's
shows. Yeah.
he's a savage guitar player.
Yeah.
So you and your friends started a band called Still Brewing. How many years ago?
Well, it's probably 7 years ago now.
But how many bands have you in? You were in an expanded band.
Oh,
Yeah, I play with other friends as well. But that
But
was
you're not
our
an official member.
I don't think any. I think only
Well, it
Kim
is-
and Dan would be official members.
Like,
They're up
expand
at
a band.
Heartwood Farm in Friendsville.
they'd be great characters for the cast. But expand a band. That's the whole idea. They're like, well, here we are. Let's
Oh,
expand.
They didn't have cable TV when you were a kid in Friendsville, did they?
Oh no, we had the old twist the
That
throttle.
explains all this. You guys had a lot of time to do cool stuff. You didn't sit around watching TV. There's no way there was internet back then.
Well, it's
Yeah.
another
Yeah, I don't
reason to
think there's anything
bring
out there
Tom
now.
Shimrock on because I grew up with two artist parents,
Good point.
and it was, he always had a wood shop and a pottery thing going. And I was an only child. So he'd just be like, well, here's the sawdust and all my scraps and go to town. And so I'd just be hanging out in the corner of the barn, building things out of wood and spinning clay and making it explode. And Oh, he was the best cat to be a dad around here. He always had a trick for something. Matter of fact, the coolest thing, and I still to this day don't know how he did it, so maybe you can find out from him. But I always wanted to make a rocket. And he's like, oh, I got an idea. And he goes up to the shop and he starts building this thing, which is kind of all out of plywood. And then he got an inner tube from an old bike tire and used the valve and like put that into this wood contraption, and then got a couple 2-liter cola bottles and then took some balsa wood and made some of the fins for the rocket. So the bottle was going to be the rocket.
Yeah.
Anyway, he ends up making this thing, brings it down to the house. Probably took a couple days to make it. And we take these 2-liter bottles and he put water in them, and he created this locking mechanism and used a bicycle pump. And we started just pumping. And then bam, would pull the pin and these things would sail into the air. And I'm just like, cool, my dad made a rocket machine.
Everybody's.
But now I think about
Nobody
how the
does.
heck did he do that?
That's
Yeah.
so genius.
Yeah.
That's
He
awesome.
always had stuff like that going on.
So, what about your mom? Your mom was, I don't know her real well, but your mom's a real nice lady too. Like, she's a school teacher, right?
She has
We need to
redeeming
talk-
qualities.
We need
Yes.
to talk about your mom. I mean, your dad's cool as hell, but your mom's super important too.
Oh, she's incredibly important because she's like the stabilizer in that platform. So you got
She
extreme
was
artist
outnumbered,
on
man.
one
She got
side,
you and your dad in the one house with just her.
but she's the matriarch.
It'd be
so-
interesting to hear her story, the side of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was a teacher,
Okay.
and she needed to teach me because
Did
dad
your dad
was,
have a job, or was it woodworking was his job?
well, he was a teacher too, fine
Oh, he
arts.
was? Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, they were both teachers. Matter of fact, he drove, and people complain so much about weather and driving to work and having to have all-wheel drive and all this crap in Garrett County. It doesn't snow like it did in the 80s, at least
Oh, not at all.
statistically. And he drove a Toyota Tercel front-wheel drive, 1 hour, 20 minutes each way to work every day when I was a kid.
Frostburg?
Bethlehem Center in Pennsylvania near Washington, PA.
I would take snow, fog, deer, the stuff we deal with here, over traffic any day. Like, if you get me out of
You
here.
and me both.
Yeah.
If I actually, I'll regret this here in about 2 months. I actually enjoy driving in the snow. Like, I think I don't know, like once or twice a year, I'll be driving somebody and they're stuck, and I had to get my truck in there, pull them out and stuff. It's
Oh.
actually a lot of fun. Like, I honestly enjoy that. Like, if I was stuck in the Beltway, I would not get any enjoyment out of that at all.
Not at all.
No, and you're definitely not helping anybody down there.
I've also
Get out
found
of traffic.
Do you think you're a good driver? Because I think I used to be a good driver. I think I'm a horrible driver now. Like, I can drive around here because I don't really have to pay that much attention. It's just, I don't know, you don't ever go over 45 miles an hour and it's country roads, and if it's snowing, you go slow or whatever, right? So put me down in the city, man. I can't drive in the city anymore. I would have road rage down there. Like, I don't think I could make it.
Oh yeah,
through
you've
that.
lost that like synapse quick.
My
well,
kids
connect.
will make fun of me. I don't pull out in front of anybody. I wait until I've got.
Oh no.
I'm good. I lost
We,
it. I don't
we were
know.
just back in Philadelphia for a wedding, and I'm just like, Mandy knows, like, don't talk to me at all while we're driving, because I'm like hyper focused. I'm like, all right, what's going on? I'm looking every which way, and yeah, I don't like driving in cities at all.
Oh no, that's Steve. That's my husband, Steve.
Yeah.
For our listener.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I had hip surgery, so I drive all the time.
Recently?
A couple years ago. So anyway, but we were in
Hope you're
Pittsburgh,
okay.
so we went, and obviously I can't drive because I just had hip surgery. So he had to drive us in Pittsburgh, and he was
Oh,
terrified of merging. He was
You
terrified.
two should arm wrestle.
He was terrified of getting into traffic, like you said. And then when you cross that bridge in Pittsburgh, you have to cross all 4 lanes to get on 376. And he had to do that in my truck. And he doesn't like driving in cities.
Mm-mm.
He gets like, he's really in the zone when he
He's
drives.
used to the country. He's not used
Yeah.
to it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's one thing I don't like about GPS is like
Oh.
like why won't it tell you in blah blah miles turn left, even if it's like
It does.
20? No, it doesn't.
That's
Yes, it
literally what
does. It literally,
No,
that's its
it
only
does not.
It actually
function.
says it 2 or 3 times.
Right.
It's
Well,
using the wrong.
It
Turn
tells
left,
you.
I guess
I am.
It tells
Yeah.
you
Or
at
maybe
10
I
miles.
just don't listen.
And then it tells you at 2 miles,
And
and
then
then
at,
it tells you when.
350 feet.
Yeah. And then
Okay,
it gives you a
okay.
map.
So but here's my thing. What it doesn't do is when you're driving in the city and you don't
Mike
have
wants a 30-mile warning.
Hold on. Hear me out, hear me
Runway
out.
26.
So what it doesn't do is turn left and then turn right.
Yes, it does.
Does it? Damn it.
It even has
says-
a drawing of where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, but I'm not supposed to look at that.
It
I'm
literally
driving.
says take the exit and then turn right.
Okay, all right.
What
So my
app are you
argument
I've
with
been
using?
known to be
GPS is-
wrong from time to time.
Oh, we've
GPS
shown how
makes
much
you
we
lazy.
do road trips here.
Like, no, it sounds horrible. Like, I used to know how to get to Pittsburgh. I could still figure it out and make an example. But like nowadays, I don't know. Ask me how to get to Pittsburgh. I don't remember the exact roads. You know what I mean? GPS makes you lazy. Like, I do agree. There's a
No,
good,
it makes you
there-
dumb.
There's a great purpose behind it to make your life easier, but it does make you lazy. It makes you dumb. You're just not used to paying attention anymore. You don't need to pay attention. You just push a button and it tells you where to go and exactly where to turn 3 times before you need to turn.
Yeah, it does take
Yeah.
us away from our North Star.
Wait.
How many years go by when you can be incriminated for something? Does anybody know the answer to that?
God.
It depends
What
on the
is it?
crime.
Depends on the
It depends
crime.
on the crime.
And who it involves.
Okay.
I don't understand the question.
Yeah, I'm lost.
He wants to tell us a story, but he doesn't want to
Well,
get in
it's
trouble
it's
for
a
it.
driving story, and I feel like this
There's
is
probably no
we're
statute
probably
of limit.
safe on
Yeah,
this.
Is
you're
anyone
safe.
hurt?
There's no, nobody
Okay.
was hurt.
Then you're good.
Actually, not many laws were even broken.
Not many.
I'd
It's
say,
okay. We
I'd
only
say
have one-
5
We
at
have
the
one
max.
listener.
What's a
now,
winner?
Too, the state police.
Yeah.
We just got our second.
All right,
listener.
guys, here's the answer to that question you had from the 90s. But there was a point in time where I was living up here in Villages of the Wisp, and it was winter, and we were having a banger of a party. And it was during the Adventure Sports Institute years. I mean, had a bunch of the people from Garrett College going to the Adventure Sports Institute over there. I was there. We were all friends. And things got wild, and I decided I was going to leave for a little while and drive in the snow. Just one of those classic Garrett County snowstorms.
What kind of
that you-
vehicle were you in?
I was in a Jeep Cherokee.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good time. That does sound like a good time.
Yeah. So I left the party and I was like, where can I just wind this thing
That's
out?
how you die.
Well, so I thought, airport, runway, right? Garrett County Airport. No airplanes are coming in tonight. Not a
You
chance.
may want to dial this back. I don't know if this is legit or not.
We don't know if he actually went, but if he did, it probably went something like this.
Hypothetically, if he was going
So my
to do this, it's
thoughts
probably
on what would be fun to do that night would be to go see what a Jeep Cherokee could do, 4-wheel drive in the snow on a runway.
sounds
and
great. If you would have done it. I'm
If
glad
I'd have
you
done
did.
it.
Yeah.
And I imagine it would have went pretty well. But what if I didn't stop at the end of the runway? Then what would have happened?
Just stick your arms out the window and you
I've never been down there.
Yeah,
What
I've
is-
heard
is it a
that they
cliff?
plow the snow all the way down the
yeah.
runway, and it just builds a big wall at the
Oh.
back of the
You
runway.
would have just launched off a giant snow ramp.
Did
You
you
could
do
have
it?
launched, or you could have got stuck.
You did it.
One of the
didn't you?
two.
Yeah, gosh, could you imagine getting stuck
Oh.
at the end of a runway in a snowstorm in Garrett County?
With no
By
cell
yourself?
phones.
And this was before cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that we have good cell service there anyway, but
But I guess there used to be a county roads snowplow up there. Maybe decommissioned. I'm sure it wasn't an active county roads department snowplow. But that would probably be a good thing to figure out how to operate and then go get unstuck at the end of a
Oh,
runway.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Hopefully they left the keys in there. I mean,
There's the old childhood initiative. And it,
So
whatever
if they
I'm looking
did
for
leave
is-
the keys, let's just say we would get in that thing and we'd go back down to the end of the runway and try and get out a vehicle from the end of the runway.
With the snowplow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but to no avail because there probably wouldn't be a strap or anything in there. So we would definitely have to go back to the party with the snowplow.
that would be the only way. Yeah.
Wow.
So if you grew up as a kid whose dad made rockets out of stuff in his garage, I fully believe you could get out of that snowbank. I think you're fine.
Yeah, sounds like a likely story.
I wonder if you would have returned the truck. I don't know, different story.
Yeah, I would probably just take the snowplow back to the party and get a bunch of friends that could help me get the truck or Jeep out of the snowbank.
Yeah,
you
because
did
parties
a-
usually have people at them. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I'm going to try to change the subject for you. So you did the Eddie Bauer Summit to Sea, right?
Good,
All right.
good transition.
No,
yeah.
no, because this is super cool. And it involves another friend of ours, a guy named Russell. And I've heard his version of the story of it, and I've heard a little bit of version of yours. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it sounds friggin' awesome. You climbed to the tallest mountain in Africa, slid down on a raft, and floated down the Nile. What did you do?
This
That was
one
a
time
horrible
I look
setup.
at you
John
for
does
Eddie
need
Bauer
a
logo.
geography
That was
lesson,
a
I
horrible
guess.
setup. That was the worst.
Sorry.
What happened?
Trying
He
to
normally
flash.
has Eddie Bauer on, and I looked at him at this moment.
I'm like 90% Eddie Bauer.
But wait, are you sponsored by Eddie Bauer?
I was, yeah, for
Man, I
for
thought we had
that.
our first sponsor. Dang.
Yeah, well, that was actually a huge sponsorship. So there was a point in time I was living in Seattle, Washington at the time, and I had been doing a tremendous amount of climbing of mountains, and I wanted to bridge the gap
Like
between
legit big mountains, not like
like knocking off the 14,000 footers in the states here.
Mike's going on a
and-
hike next week, 13 miles.
Yeah. So 30 almost.
30 miles.
Yeah. But
Oh, North Fork Mountain Trail.
no, down
You can totally relate to my
It's Wolf Gap, I think is what it's called. So we're hiking down. It's like on the border of West Virginia and Virginia. We're
Okay.
just ridge hiking down there. But
They have a
yeah.
scenic highway, scenic river he's going to hike down somewhere in West Virginia.
If I find myself in that
Cass Scenic
situation,
Railroad.
hey, at
Yeah.
least there's good water.
Okay, so what mountain did you go to the top of?
Well, the one for this expedition you're talking about, that was Mount McKinley or Denali in Alaska.
And you're the only dude to ever do this? Like you're the only person to ever do it? or
A lot
bunch
of people
done
have climbed Denali. It's the highest peak in America, all
Okay.
50 states, but it's in Alaska. So it's 20,000 and some change. If you're going to do the 7 summit thing where you climb the seven
That's what I
highest
was saying.
summits on every continent, this is the highest one on this continent. So, but I wanted to combine it with paddling
it? Okay.
because paddling is my primary sport. And I was planning to do it no matter what. The problem was it costs a lot of money to put things like that together because the goal was climb the mountain, descend the mountain, put on the river at the toe of the glacier where it actually comes out of the ice and paddle all the way to the ocean. And I called it the Summit to Sea
How far is
expedition.
that? Oh, so you named it. That was your name?
Yeah,
Summit to Sea?
I coined a name so I could try and get sponsorship money and things like that, which actually Realty sponsored a little bit of money for that thing.
Oh, nice.
Go
Yeah,
us.
back in the day. But I needed a lot more. And there's a
Hey,
really,
$50. What do you want?
yeah, well, that got the coffee for a week. But there was a guy named Ed Viesters who is still to this day one of the most legendary mountaineers in the entire world. He climbed all of the world's highest peaks without oxygen, which is an insane feat. If anybody listens to this and understands the magnitude, they'll know who this guy is. And I was like, you know what? He lives in Seattle. I live in Seattle. I'm going to reach out to him. He's a human. I read his book. And so I reached out and he responded. And I told him about what I wanted to do. And he was even more responsive and he thought it was really cool. And at the time, he was helping Eddie Bauer launch First Descent, which was their new super technical gear line to bring Eddie Bauer out of the real estate world and back into the adventure sports world. That was their goal, and it worked. But he said, "Hey, listen, we're offering a big sponsorship to a few people that can do something that's a first that hasn't been done before. So what I was proposing had not been done before." And short story is they brought me on, gave me the sponsorship, and it happened while I was actually going to the bathroom. I was sitting on the toilet and my Gmail pinged and it was this lady from Eddie Bauer official saying, "We'd like to sponsor your trip. Can you leave in 2 weeks?"
Whoa.
And I hadn't been planning to leave for a month and a half. I was going no matter what. I had things set up and I'm like, in 2 weeks? She's like, "Yeah, that's the way we need it to work out for our
Can
marketing
I finish
purposes."
this first and get back to you? I need a minute.
I'm going to need 5.
Yeah,
I remember
quickly
you
got off the toilet
I remember
and
you
flew
and
to
Russell
Alaska.
wearing First Ascent stuff back then. How many years ago was this, you think?
This was 2011.
There's
Okay.
the most
10 years
adorable video of him doing an interview.
I
for
just
this.
watched it actually recently.
Whoa. Well,
He has the best hair.
Yeah?
Oh,
Was
yeah,
that back
that-
in your long hair days?
Well, I was
You got long
working
hair?
on long hair. Yeah,
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was
It's like
long
sun
hat hair.
bleach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hat hair.
So you and Russell were walking around 2011 with the First Ascent gear and stuff on. And I was like, I wonder what that is. It looks cool. Now it's on Bass Pro Shop when you're going down through Morgantown. Like it's everywhere. Maybe you were part of their success.
It's in this very room.
Yeah, well, and quite a few
Where?
other friends.
My pants are first descent.
Yeah,
have you
he's-
climbed
he's
that
got
mountain?
some.
No, I didn't.
You
But
didn't?
I
It's
am.
on the bucket list. Are you going to wear them on your hike next week?
I would like to actually. I'm going to do the opposite of what Jesse did. I'm going to take it from adventure sports and bring it back to real estate. I'm going to open my own line of business casual rugged gear.
Can you write Eddie a letter for us and let him know? We're trying to take it back to
Yeah,
real estate.
I've got a couple
Yeah,
contacts
Eddie.
over there. Yeah.
No one else, just Eddie.
Yeah, but Russell joined on that. So it took 32 days to complete that thing.
Well, he
nonstop.
climbed McKinley with you.
No, I did that part with some other climbers.
Uh-huh.
And then after doing the climbing and the descent, then I had to switch gear and switch my partners because none of them were paddling people. So great friend of mine, LJ Groth, flew in from Chile, actually, and he bush plane flight into the toe of this glacier, boom, through the alder bushes onto the river, and then a little over 2 weeks of the Tokasitna and the Chalitna and the Susitna. And then
Those are rivers.
those are all rivers, yeah, in Alaska. And then it went into the Cook Inlet, which,
I've been there.
yeah,
I've been there. The tide is nuts.
the tide is nuts. And
It is
that
so
was the
fast.
most, I mean, climbing that mountain was insane. I got frost nipped on multiple extremities. The temperatures are absolutely savage, like 50 below zero. Think about that.
Good God.
Yeah. Any exposure to the skin in those conditions is like instantly gone.
I'm good
But,
at about 20 above zero.
You get pretty lucid up there too. You know, you're like hyperventilating for 14 hours on the summit day, and you actually do go into that place where you're kind of high. Like, oh, this is how people fall off mountains.
Because you're oxygen
Yeah.
deprived.
It's like doesn't matter
Well, did you
what I
have,
do.
Did you have oxygen for your trip?
And you had
No.
a friend with
No.
you. You weren't by yourself, right? You had a friend? At least
Right.
a
No, I
partner?
was climbing with a couple guys. Yeah. And anyway, but the going into the Cook Inlet was a big deal.
Is that where Russell claims you almost missed something and would have died if you didn't get it? Like,
Yeah, it would
there's
have been
part
a
of
big
Russell's
deal if we
story
didn't.
where you didn't tell him how serious it was. Like, you probably didn't do it on purpose.
That was by
because,
design.
Yeah, there's a let you fill in, but there was this part of the story when Russell goes back to it, and Russell's like, "Yeah, I thought we were just paddling along and it's cool," and then we get done with it, and Jesse goes, "Man, we were really close to just dying."
Well, we were really close to losing our last chance to get to shore. But that inlet is almost 10 miles wide in some places, and it drains out like a bathtub twice a day.
Oh wow!
So imagine
All that water.
we'll
we
just
get.
even say a 5 mile wide body of water that drains down to maybe a half a mile wide shipping channel.
Wow.
And then everything else that's left up there are mud flats. And people get stuck out there. And
What do you do?
ships get
Just
stuck out there
chill
and
and wait till it
helicopters
comes
come
back?
in.
We just don't get stuck.
Yeah. Well, ideally not get stuck. And that was our whole goal, was to keep it away from,
Are we
stay
out of
near the
film?
shipping channel.
Good
No, we
Lord.
just got to stop. I was waiting for you to finish. That camera overheated. Take a short break.
Deep crack lick.
We get in there so you don't have
Do
to.
you love
Maybe
it?
the wake on the lake.
Wake on the lake.
Woke on the lake.
No tide.
That's not bad.
Second wake.
Not
talked about
not
that.
tidy.
Oh, so how do we do this? So I don't remember what you were
Mistake
talking
on the lake.
Well, we were just
It's fine. He was finishing his story
about.
about.
the summit to seas.
He was finishing Summit to Sea story.
Not in Maryland.
So you
Oh yeah, Summit to Sea.
finished the summit to sea. I don't remember where we left off.
That
Yeah,
was
well,
it.
you
He
were
was in
talking about the
Cook
channel,
Inlet.
but yeah, we I think so. Since that camera was running anyway,
You're good.
he's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just finish the Summit to Sea thing with the fun part at the very end.
Okay.
Perfect.
But the shipping channel and the Cook Inlet was the true bear of the paddling. It was 14 non-stop hours of paddling, which just broke about all of us. But as we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and for me, it's the end of 31 days of being on this nonstop adventure, and I just cannot wait to finish it, to complete this expedition. And we're coming towards Anchorage. The Cook Inlet constricts and it starts to swing up river, and the tide's coming in, and it's a tremendous amount of water flow, and we're trying to make this probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 mile ferry across the pinch of this inlet to get to Anchorage, to get to shore. Because if you don't, it's just up the gut of middle of nowhere Alaska and back into the bears and everything. Which there were grizzly bear footprints outside of our tent in
Do you have
the
like a
morning
pistol? Do
sometimes.
you have
That's a
anything?
true
Like
story.
in case?
Oh yeah, any self
Bear spray?
Yeah, I had a shotgun that
Okay.
had some what do you call the shot that's like
buckshot.
In case
yeah,
Russell
it had
got
some
weird.
Yeah.
buckshot and then a couple slugs. Yeah. So never had to use it.
Good.
Yeah. But boy, it turned out I was closer to maybe having to use it than I thought.
Is that right?
But anyway, this we end up getting closer and closer to Anchorage, but as the tide's pushing us upriver, we're getting further and further away from a place to actually get to shore, to the point where one of the last shipping docks is within sight, and I'm like, we're going for that thing, and we row closer and closer and closer to it, and then this truck comes down with lights flashing. Not the good kind of lights, like the get out of here kind of lights. And I'm like, well, I don't have time for this. And he gets out of his truck and he starts pushing with his hands back at us. He's like, no, not here, back.
What?
And I'm like, just shaking my head at him like, oh no, we're coming there.
Who is this guy?
He's the security on the international shipping dock, it turns out. So he starts to see me and what's going on in my eyes, looking back at him, and he changes his demeanor a little bit, and he's like, are you okay? And I just shook my head no, even though we're fine, but we needed to get
Please
off the
help.
water. Yeah. And he's like, waves us towards, and so we paddle into the shipping dock, and he's like, what's wrong? You can't be here. And I quickly just said, we've been 31 days out here, came from Mount McKinley. He's like, you did what? I'm like, yeah, we need to get to shore. And he's like, oh, okay. And he just changed his whole vibe right there and brought us up onto the shipping dock. He asked me what the full story was. I gave him a quick rundown of what just went down. And then all of a sudden we had our first big fan.
Oh, wow.
And he called in burgers from someplace in Anchorage that got delivered out to the shipping dock. And yeah, we're the first civilians or whatever to step foot on that place. He gave us a ride all the way back out of all this private property, and we ended up getting a ride back up to Talkeetna, Alaska, and partied our butts off for the summer solstice.
Has anybody done that other than you? Like, are you the person to do it?
Not that I know of.
Sounds like a challenge.
Would you consider that your? Yeah, no. I don't kayak. Not yet, anyway.
What makes you decide to do that? Like, it's cool as hell you did, but I mean, there's no way a 32-day trip was your first one. Like, did you do? So you started doing it when you were a kid, I'm guessing, or you were telling me a minute ago, I think, while we were switching the film and the camera. You are also a professional kayaker, so you became a professional kayaker, and on your trips, you would go camping on the side too, and that kind of got you into it.
Yeah, that
2-3 day
definitely
trips?
sparked the big interest. You know, we'd end up out in California or Colorado on the West Coast and start chasing those high Sierra overnight kayak runs that would take you from, the top of the 14,000 foot mountains of California all the way down into the Central Valley. And that's really where I got the bug. I was like, ooh, I want more of this overnight stuff. And then years went by and climbing started to take over. And, climbing is a lifestyle sport where you kind of land at a crag and camp out for a couple nights and work on a project. And that was cool, but I wanted more out of that. I wanted to keep going higher than the top of the rock. So I ended up getting scooped up by a company called World Class Kayak Academy to coach kayaking over in China for a whole winter.
They get a lot of big rivers over there, right?
Yeah, big rivers.
Yeah.
Like they drain the Himalaya kind of big rivers.
Yeah.
And so on this trip, we traveled for months and months through China and cultural Tibet. and paddling all the big rivers, the Yangtze, the Mekong, the Salween. And that was the first time that I got to lay my eyes on the Himalayas. And if you've ever seen the Himalayas for the first time, it makes you feel like the smallest person on the planet. There's nothing that we have in America that even touches that kind of scale.
Did you climb up there? Did you do it?
Well, we did climb some stuff, yeah, but I wouldn't call it actually climbing. We did some treks over there and got to the base of some sacred mountains. But that was the moment where I said, okay, this is it. It's snow-capped peaks for me for a long time. And that was, to answer your question, the beginning of that.
It's funny you say that because I was told, and I should have just looked it up, but I was told that the surrounding land around Denali makes Denali higher than like Everest because of all the surrounding land going up to Everest. Is that correct?
Base to summit.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're actually not even that comparable of mountains in a way, but you got to figure the ocean is 0.
Yes.
Right? And Denali's 20,000
Yeah.
and some change, and you can see it from the ocean. So
Right.
that's the biggest sin. Well, if you can see it, which is kind
Well,
of
Alaska and Hawaii are
classic
both
on that
like
mountain.
that.
fog. It's like Rainier. Yeah.
yeah. And then
Oh man, Rainier's insane when you can see it
When you can see
Yeah,
it.
you can
yeah.
see that from the
Seattle.
ocean,
It was
too.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was the
don't-
closest I ever came to dying on a mountain was Rainier.
I was going to ask you.
Let's hear.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Hanging
Hold
tight.
the death.
I've held it for a long time. Terminal on that
I need
one.
to buy a solid.
Solid state.
All right.
Back to death.
Yeah. You were talking about Rainier.
Yeah. So I had went to do an attempt on that with some friends, Blake and Zach, at one point in time, and we got pretty high up there, and not all of the party was down to keep it moving, so we kind of just enjoyed our time up on the high part of the mountain and called it quits. But I really wanted that one, and
Get to the summit, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
And this was kind of at a time when I was working towards that Alaska thing, so I felt like I really had to do it. So I had an opportunity to do it in the winter, which I don't know the exact numbers, so somebody can figure that one out. But it's kind of like maybe 200 people summit Rainier in the winter versus 10,000 in the summer.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's just a different animal up there in the wintertime. And so we end up there on a good route and a known route. And this is just kind of the nature of mountains. And this is what a lot of people don't maybe understand, is that there is no highway to the top. There's no like guarantee that everything's just going to be nice and paved out for you, even though it's, big, steep snow mountain.
Good metaphor for life.
Yeah. Climbing mountains is a walk through life in a day.
Yeah.
But we end up kind of working up through this really tight couloir, which is just a narrow passage in a steep part of the mountain. And at the top of the couloir is an ice wall. And Rainier's really the only mountain in the lower 48 states that has glaciers on it, like active glaciers. So that means just big hunks of ice that stay all year long up there. It doesn't melt and then regenerate. And lo and behold, every mountaineer's worst nightmare, big chunk of that ice falls off, and I see it. I'm on the front of the rope, on the lead of the rope at the time, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I just yell avalanche to the guys on the rope behind me, and this couloir that we're in is probably 60-degree pitch on the thing, and it's not very wide, maybe.
What's a couloir?
It's like a steep snow chute between two cliffs. So when you look at a mountain, you see like a ribbon of snow going up through. We're in that thing, and there's an ice wall at the top of it.
It looks like the logo on your pants.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, North Face. So this thing starts barreling down, and I'm like, I got to get behind something immediately. And so on a 60-degree pitch, I just dive over to this rock that I throw my ice pick in and just kind of tuck in behind it. And I look back on my rope, and one of the guys was over, but the other one was still kind of in the couloir, and I start grabbing the rope and just like pulling on him to get him over, because now all this stuff is flying down through it. And he finally gets tucked in behind me, and we just kind of stuff our heads down and let this whole thing go flying over the top. And we're protected by this rock.
Insane.
But the stuff
Like,
that
this is
was
legit.
flying.
Like you did this. This is
Yeah,
from a
this-
movie you watched last week. Isn't that the one with Sylvester Stallone?
I wish it
jumping
was a
across
movie that I
canyons?
watched. Yeah, I watched the movie and then they all died.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
But I never, up until that point, they talk about in the mountains with an ice fall or something coming through, and the rope was sheared immediately, and then the guy flew off the mountain kind of thing. And I'm like, that sounds crazy. Does that really happen?
Yeah.
Well, these chunks of ice that came off of here, imagine like an 8-foot knife-edged shark fin, and then throw 50 of them down an ice chute at like 100 miles an hour. Yeah, that's going to cut a rope, and it's going to cut a rope
It'll
immediately.
find a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut
that,
you or
Wow.
cut anything.
that second guy that
Everybody was
that
okay?
I was pulling.
You and your friends?
Well, so after it all goes over and I looked back and I was like, all right, are you good? He's sitting there holding his leg, and he couldn't move his leg because he had gotten tagged by one of like a smaller piece of ice that gave him the true dead leg for probably, I don't know, maybe
So it
20
didn't
minutes
break
or 30
anything,
minutes.
but
we
he
hung out
just
there.
his leg was useless.
Yeah, it was
20
like
minutes.
it just stunned his leg so bad he couldn't move it for a little while.
What do you do if you get hurt? Like you're just screwed. Like you can't climb out of there.
You
if
hope
hurt.
you're with good people
Yeah, hope you.
and they
yeah.
get you out of there.
See you next week, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got him squared away, and he was a really strong climber anyway. And yeah, we summited and came down a different route just in time.
Wow.
So is
Yeah.
that still on the bucket list then?
What's that?
Rainier.
Oh no, he did it.
Oh, that was
you-
it. Yeah, we
you guys
summited.
did it at that
Yeah,
time.
we did it that day.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's
Yeah, not on the
impressive.
bucket list for that.
Yeah.
Maybe the first time was a hint from God. Like, hey, you might not want to do this, bud.
Yeah. Okay, you asked for it.
Can't
Well-
you just give me a sign? I did, dipshit.
Probably
gave
won't
you
choose that route again.
Right.
if I can avoid it.
No, I can imagine Rainier's crazy in the winter. Mandy and I got engaged in Paradise up on Mount
yeah.
Rainier, and that by some metrics is the snowiest place in the world. You know, so like we're sitting up there, and I proposed to Mandy, and everybody has snowshoes on, and we see all these little tiny
She
trees
couldn't
sticking
run.
out
That
of
was
the
a
ground.
great idea.
Well, no, we Cha-ching. But we saw these little tiny trees sticking out of the ground, and you know, afterwards we realized like those were 80-foot trees that were sticking out of the snow. Like, could you
Yes.
imagine being next to it and just sliding down? I was like, let's get the hell out of here right now. Like,
Thanks for saying yes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, so don't think prettiest place you've ever been. It's pretty, straight up beautiful, mountains, ocean, prettiest place.
Tibet.
Really hoping you said the Yag River.
are you just numb to the Yak River at this point, or is that?
Oh no, that's the reason that I live here.
Yeah.
100%.
So you've been to Tibet? I take it.
Yeah, on his
Yeah.
on his
Yeah.
paddling
Well,
journey.
and you did say prettiest, but just the beauty of everything, the culture, the people. I felt like a part of whoever I was up until the point that I went and spent all that time there. That boy or that ego that may have existed, it left there, completely left there. And when I returned from that trip, my whole entire trajectory in life changed, and my demeanor, like the whole thing. I just witnessed a total humbleness, you know? And
Are you going to go back?
yeah. I've done a few trips to Asia, but we're planning a Nepal trip for this next year. Yeah, river trip. That's big time on the list right now.
So where's home? Is this still always home?
Yak
base?
River.
Yeah.
That was set up.
Yeah.
You got the spot
was
at the
set up.
put-in, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I left the land of milk and honey, right? I was living in California for years, which so many people think they, want to live there, and a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But it just seemingly became less sustainable of a place to me. It was dry. There were fires everywhere. People were using water in places that water doesn't exist. And I always just dreamed about getting back to the banks of that Youghiogheny River.
Yeah.
It's if you're a skier, John,
Yeah.
you are a skier. Kristin, you're a
Snowboard.
big skier. You take
Snowboard.
trips
Yeah.
out west all the time.
John's a
I've
boarder
skied twice. I
If you
snowboarded
were a
lot.
skier, where would you want to live?
where you can ski all the time.
And where would
Tahoe.
that be? Maybe
I
Tahoe,
really like Tahoe.
Summit County, Colorado.
Okay. Any of them?
But
I'm
you have to
very
understand
sheltered.
that Garrett
No
County, Garrett
Oh.
County is the Summit County or the Tahoe
Of the East
for a
Coast.
kayaker.
Well, it is for skiing too, if it's close to the yard.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
the
have,
mountain's not as big, but
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
the point.
well, I have a friend that he's at
So, hold on,
WVU.
I was missing your point. So where we are now,
As
you're
long as
trying
he's
to say
honest.
basically, because I was daydreaming about Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe, in my opinion.
Yeah, you
Oh,
had to
that
say
is
Tahoe,
dreamy.
didn't you?
Lake Tahoe, I was lost in your conversation because last time I was out there was the first time I experienced it. And I don't even know where the fires were, but you could actually see the smoke and you could smell the smoke. And we were hundreds of miles away. And to me, I don't understand that. Like that would be from understanding where I was in Lake Tahoe to where the fire was, would have been like Garrett County to Washington, D.C. Like there was that big of a
Oh.
fire. We were seeing it 200 miles away and smelling it. And that's not my world. I don't know what that means. And
Do you
so I-
remember that happened last year here?
Here,
we
yeah.
got the
Smoke
fire
from
it.
effect from like the Canada fire.
Yes. Yeah.
Crazy. All the photos, like
Pretty
drone
pictures,
photos and
yeah.
stuff. It was really wild with the
Yeah.
drone photos and stuff. Like you can see it in the horizon.
So that's where I got lost with it. So I was thinking about Tahoe because I like it, right? But I missed your point. Your point is everything that I think is super cool about Tahoe. It's big mountains to snowboard on. It's lake. It's everything that I'm into. You're saying that Garrett County is that place for kayakers.
Yeah, for whitewater kayakers. And it is not just intrinsically, but statistically as well. So a WVU researcher just did this incredible project, and he's going to present on it Saturday
Yeah.
at the new Performing Arts Center at Garrett College. He actually is going to go over all this, but not to let the cat out of the bag, but he did a entire United States concentration of runnable miles of whitewater within a certain radius of a point. And Thomas, West Virginia, which is right
Yeah.
over the hill here, was the radius point that provided more paddleable whitewater than anywhere else in the country, and it wasn't even close.
Wow.
Second place wasn't even that close. So, yeah, we're in the Tahoe.
Whitewater Mecca of the.
We are
North
in the
America.
whitewater mecca.
So
yeah,
that's kind of the point of this. Like I didn't know that. I don't think our average person knows that. But to tell you that, so Mike and I did the ASCII last year, and then I've done
the whitewater course
Yeah,
on
the
the top of
whitewater
the
course at the
wisp.
top of the Wisp.
I got to watch.
Kristin watching videotape Mike and I did. It was a lot of fun. We had a great
It was
time,
fun.
but it probably wouldn't have been scary for you. You know what I mean? And then I've done the Upper Yog maybe twice on guided tours, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, an average person can do that, right? And like
Oh, yeah.
go down to Precision Rafting. Are they still there?
Yeah,
yeah.
Precision's kind of the premier company down there.
I've gone out with them twice and it was great. And we had a
Yeah.
great day. You go down there and you kind of start off, correct me if I'm wrong, you start off kind of floating and chilling and kind of talking for maybe like a half hour or something. And the guides are real good. They're like, oh, we're going to get to a 7-foot waterfall. And you're like, no, he's full of shit. We're not going to do a 7-foot waterfall. And you're kind of floating along. Then you hit like a 7-foot waterfall. And then for the next 7 miles is legit.
Nonstop.
Like
Action.
So again, you get there, you hop in the boat with your guide, and you don't know what you're doing, and you have a great day looking at the leaves and the trees, the scenic corridor, like you're talking about. And everyone's having a good time, and you kind of get your heart pumping a little bit because the guide's saying, "Hey, look, if you don't do what I tell you, you're going to get hurt. You need to do what I say." And then no, it is legit 2 hours of nonstop whitewater rafting. Then you get out and you have a shot at tequila and some hamburgers, and it's a freaking great day. Like it was.
Oh, it's one of the best. I mean, it's so unique to have that much whitewater stacked up in such an accessible, reliable area.
But I think that's my point. Like, so you can do it and go out there. You guys and your pros can go out there and do what you guys do and surf the waves and
Yeah.
go in the eddies and all that stuff you do, right? But everybody else can too. Like,
it's
but
like
you need to
our
be safe about it. Like,
Training ground, really.
I actually remember my dad saying that when we first moved up here. We, I don't even know what it was. I was probably 10 or 15 or something on this trip. And Dad saw the whitewater rafting put in at Sang Run. He goes, "Oh, we should put the canoe in there." Thank God we didn't. But so I mean, there probably needs to be some better advertising than that because your average person would think, "Oh yeah, you can put a canoe in there," but I don't think you really can.
Every year, there's at least one or two parties that, fortunately, they tend to be there whenever there are other whitewater people there.
Yeah.
And they drop a canoe at Sang Run,
Uh-huh.
even though there are signs that say dangerous rapids below, but people don't want to believe that.
Nobody believes the
I know.
signs.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, man, where are you guys headed? And they're like, oh, we're just going to go downstream a couple miles. You know, you can't get out, right?
Have you
And
two done
maybe
it?
that's good information for
No.
all listeners.
I've
is
never done any of that.
You can't get out below the bridge in Sang Run.
Listen to that. I had no idea.
There is
What do you mean you
no
can't get out?
exit
Like
until
you're-
Friendsville.
Yeah.
If you fall off or you do whatever, you are going down that river,
You're
dead or
going-
alive, till you get there.
Till you get there. I mean,
Yeah.
you could get off the side and bushwhack through the mountains and find your way home.
Yeah, as long
but
as you bring your machete with you.
Were you
on,
there
on
the
the
It'd be
river?
river.
so
Brian
nice
Humberg
if
took
they
me out.
paved a trail, though.
I don't know if I was.
So one,
But yes, if we do pave
there
a
was
trail,
everybody was gonna say it.
Then you could get off wherever you wanted.
There was a day Humberg calls me up, our friend Brian
that's the
Humberg,
argument.
and he goes, "Hey man, let's go down the Upper Yacht." And it was me and him and Kellyanne Green and another lady. I don't remember who she was. And we were floating down the river and everything was going good. And we got to one of the big holes, right? One of the big things.
Probably
And,
National Falls.
National Falls. And Brian is great. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Brian's a really good kayaker, really good rafter.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great at it. I don't know necessarily he's a good teacher. Like he didn't like when I would go on the precision rafting trip, they would say, okay, paddle on the left, paddle on the right. They would literally tell you what to do. I think Brian, maybe it was my fault. Brian thought I was experienced or something and I wasn't. And so none of us were. But then we got in this one spot and I just remember Brian looking at me and Kellyanne had fallen out of the boat and Brian goes, get her. And I was like, what? And I just remember I reached over and grabbed Kellyanne's life jacket and literally grabbed her by the back and threw her in the boat and she landed on her face. And like part of me was like, oh my God, I'm sorry for landing on your face, but we made it out of there. Like, I think it was a little sketchy. Like,
Yeah.
we made it. And then one of the precision rafter guys, I feel like it was Roger Isabel was maybe down there.
Yeah.
And
his
they
owner.
started yelling at us, like, not in a bad way, but like, you guys are idiots. What are you doing? And then they saw it was Brian and I think they were okay with that. But it was a blast, but it was really sketchy.
Oh yeah, there's
I
a
had
cult-like culture in there. They get some stink eye if you're not if
yeah.
you don't look like
They
you know
didn't
what you're doing.
recognize. No. They did not recognize me, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And then Brian, they were like, "Oh, okay, cool, you're good." So,
I had a
Yeah.
similar story on the lower where Mogi took us down. Mandy and I, it was just three of us. And we're getting ready to go down Cucumber, which I guess is like the first or second rapid.
is that Ohio Pile? Where's
Yeah,
the-
down
okay.
Ohio Pile. Yep. And we hit a little rock. Mandy flies out of the boat. Mogi goes, grab her. And I just grab her. And I'm holding her in the
doesn't pull her
water.
Do you
and
need more instruction?
She's good.
I'm a real good listener, Mogi. What next? So
Save
he
your wife.
grabs me and he pulls me and both of us back into the boat. And then we went down Cucumber backwards.
So the Upper Yog is here, and that's your class 3, 4, and 5. That's your big boy, right?
Yeah, your upper yaks, your local big boy kind of here.
And then
Yeah.
the lower Yog is right across the Pennsylvania line in Ohio Pile. And can't kind of like not anybody, but can't you just rent a raft and go down Ohio Pile? Like, isn't it just?
Oh yeah,
more
they call them unguided
touristy?
missiles.
Guided
You
missiles.
can
And
just
it's a fun trip. I remember doing that a couple of times. Like I remember me
Yeah.
and my mom and dad went down there. We rented a raft and we had no idea what we were doing. We had a great day. So I mean, you don't have to be awesome to do. It was just like skiing. They have bunny hills and expert diamonds.
It's accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a lot easier way.
and
to
they
say
have
it.
a
I
bike
just
trail.
couldn't say it.
So
And they have a
you can go
bike
there
trail.
Yes,
on your
they
bike
have a
trail.
bike
Yeah, there you go.
So the point of this podcast is Kristin came up with it. Obviously not salty because we live in a lake and the water is not salty like the beach, like Salt Life, right? So we're gonna make not salty stickers. They'll be on the website for $3 a piece. But
2 for $5.
so the point for this, or Kristin's idea, was to tell us something you're not salty about. But my point is nobody cares what you're not salty about. Nobody. You like sunshine and rainbows, big deal. Everybody does, right? What are you salty about? What's the thing that ticks you off the most? Is it
Oh
the
man,
wrong people going to
Currently.
Tibet? Is it the path? Is
It people that don't have Subarus
is it
going to kayak?
Instagram? People who don't have. You drive a Subaru?
No, he doesn't.
No.
no, I don't.
What do you drive? Tell our listeners want to know.
Well, my pride and joy is an OG Toyota Tundra.
I was so expecting like Mercedes.
Oh,
I
no.
thought that
This
was
is
a-
all
I thought it was
fake. This is
Tacoma.
totally
No,
fake.
he has
It's a
an,
Tundra.
He also drives
it's
an
a Tundra.
Audi.
Oh, wow.
I do have an Audi. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Brown Audi. Brown.
Anyway,
the
what,
Browdy.
what are you salty about?
Honestly, I am.
Facebook.
No, man. I'm salty every single time I go out on Ski Harbor
Why?
because
Right here?
yeah,
Harbor?
right here.
Nice little place.
The tonsil of Deep Creek Lake.
It
I've
does look like a
ever
tonsil,
since
it
I was a
does.
kid, I just always felt like, man, what a cool thing it would be if Deep Creek Lake had that park. You know, if you travel to places like
That would be a cool state park.
Asia or South America or Central America or Europe, anywhere, there's always this central park that people come together. They have fairs, they have festivals, they have farmers markets, all this stuff. And man, I always just felt that the tonsil down here, if you had a boardwalk and little shops all along it with a bridge going over to the Wisp side and another bridge going over to the McHenry side, and then you had an amphitheater out there with this epic view of Deep Creek, like that would be everything instead of the
There
trailer
you-
park.
Attention developers.
I was
Mhm.
giggling. There did used to be a lakeside park that had a beach that was
What?
accessible. But Jimmy's family developed it for houses.
Tiger
Just
Claw.
kidding.
Tiger Claw.
You are right though. That's I've thought about.
it'd
that
be
for
really
years.
cool.
What Deep Creek is actually missing is a town. Like think about
Yes.
that. Like if you go to Park City, there's the coolest little downtown. You go to Truckee, there's the coolest little
Yeah.
downtown. Thomas has the coolest little downtown, but we don't have that. Like
That's the spot.
I'm
It
not
is
picking
the
on the fire
spot.
department. We need the fire department, right? But that little
Yeah.
stretch where fire department and BP and all that kind of stuff, or what you're talking about, the Ski Harbor thing, we need a town.
Walking.
Wisp is
Yeah.
planned on doing it. Hopefully they do. It just we need maybe this podcast to reach Disney.
Well, and yeah, maybe it will reach some of those thick pockets. Somebody may roll in with their 100 million that it might take to buy all the condos at Ski Harbor, and
I can
next
build a
thing you
park
know,
bench.
we're
I can't even-
podcasting from the tonsil of Deep Creek Lake.
I mean, I'm doing pretty well, but I can't even build this trail.
Yeah, that's it.
The trail will not connect to the tonsil.
So you've been an adventurer your whole life. How did you get into real estate?
Well, I actually got into it originally early on. I got my license back in, I think it was like 2005 or 6 when I
Yes,
was
yeah.
over at Stony Brook. And then, as everybody knows, 2008 happened. And if you weren't established or had
That's
something,
right. Were we in the same class, the same real estate class? Because I got mine in 05. Maybe you were 06.
I
or
was
we were
with
right around
Mike
the same time.
Linscomb
I forgot about
down in the Ocean City. The
Right.
what is it?
You had
the
to
Ed
drive
Cook
to
or
Ocean City
Oh,
to.
dude, he took the easy
Yeah.
class. You went down there for 3 days and got it done. Like
I
I
feel like
took,
we went
I
a
have a
couple
Tiger
times.
Claw comment on that.
but did you fail your test?
No.
Oh, did you pass your test on the first go around?
I did.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you?
Oh yeah.
I loaded my truck up. I loaded my truck up in Philadelphia and stopped in Hagerstown on my way here and passed my test.
That's right.
What?
That's
Yeah.
my man.
I was on my way. I was like, hell or high water. I'm going to sell shit in Deep Creek.
So, for the listener listening, if there's 2 of you guys, we all have our real estate license.
Yeah.
we have
do.
4 agents here that all passed their test on the first try,
Hey,
will-
which should put us right at the top
Not
of your,
salty about
your
that.
list.
I will Tiger Claw. We all have a good friend. We're not going to mention his name, even if you do know it. But a buddy of ours did not pass him the first time, and I love rubbing it in his face.
A lot of people don't. I
Or
mean,
the second or third or fourth, maybe even, right?
I don't know who we're
It's
talking
not
about.
heart surgery. No, we
That's
don't.
fine.
Tiger Claw.
Tiger Claw.
I sit for my broker test next month though.
Are you going to pass?
It's a 70% fail rate. So I hope that I am
That's a
in
yes.
that. I
So
hope
she
I'm
doesn't
in
care
that
about being a broker.
30%.
She just wants to be.
I thought you meant you had to just get a 70%. You as a
No, you actually have to get a
70% of the people
75.
that take it fail.
Fail, yeah.
Can
Why
we
is it that hard?
can we bet on this right
Yeah,
now?
Yes.
please.
Okay.
I would
Can we
love.
put a link on the website?
I'd
Everybody,
love money
is it
when
a
I
poll?
finish.
Is it legit for us to gamble?
I'd love to walk out the door having
No, we got to
passed
go to West
and
Virginia
getting
to
money.
gamble.
The donations will go to building the trail along the corridor.
Perfect.
Do they give you your score?
No, that's what's awful. It's a P or an
That
F.
really ruins the betting part of it.
I know.
I'm betting
gonna-
on you
I'm
to
gonna
pass.
get it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
there we
get a
go.
P.
So you guys probably don't like this. I think you'll like it. We're drinking whiskey. We're drinking the Zachary Edwards whiskey that is made here locally, kind of, sort of. What's your favorite drink? What do you drink? What whiskey? What's your favorite?
Probably would be a good bourbon would be number 1 on the top of the list if I'm drinking at that point in time.
I didn't think about that until a couple years ago. Like I was always a beer guy. And probably 4 or 5 years ago, I kind of got into whiskey and bourbon. Mike for Christmas last year bought me the best bottle of bourbon I've ever had. Like, it was amazing. And I do like it because you don't have to sit around and drink 12 beers. You probably shouldn't in the first place, but a little bit of whiskey.
Well, we all have
good.
different chemical reactions to things, right? You know,
I've
like
got to be careful with the whiskey.
Oh, I know.
That's when I learned. That's when I learned I had to be
We have
careful with
wrestled.
beer.
I've grown up since then.
I was talking to my one buddy, Colin actually. He used to be at the NLP office there, and he's saying, I was like, well, you know, I just like beer. He's like, Mike, would you sit down and have like 15 sodas? I'm like, no, I guess I wouldn't. I would be watch myself.
Yeah, there is we just did a Grand Canyon trip this year, 16 days paddling through the Grand Canyon. And one of the guys that came in, he hiked in halfway through the trip. And the first thing I did was give him a beer at the bottom of the trail. And he was like, thank you. He's like, you know, beer.
Sometimes the beer is the best thing ever.
Oh, my gosh.
He said beer has food value, but food does not have beer value. That was my favorite quote from the trip.
Right? That's
so
awesome.
there was the one time that I drank probably too much whiskey. Guaranteed I did. And I decided to wrestle Jesse. And in Jesse's defense, he put me down every time. Like, I mean, it wasn't even... Were you drunk? I hope you were.
Oh, well,
no,
yeah.
I wish you were sober. That'd be a little bit less embarrassing for me. But I think I kept coming back.
You did. You were relentless, John, and that's probably what's made you so successful.
The 74th time of getting my ass kicked, I was like, "There's no way he's this strong." I was like, I got it this time." Every time I went in here thinking I did something different, and oh no, you shut me down every time. And it was in the back of a limo, and
It was your birthday.
It was my birthday.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, he didn't cut me any slack for my birthday.
That's
but
funny.
I did keep coming back, and I did keep losing.
Speaking of drunk stories, we want to ask all our local people, what's your best honey
or
like,
black
Oh,
bear.
yeah.
what's your
or-
best Deep Creek going out story?
Yeah.
30th birthday, limo.
Oh, my best one?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yours.
Deep Creek going out?
This is your show.
Oh, well, actually, okay. Yeah, this is still on the
It can be hypothetical.
plead the fifth.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, everybody's done this, right? Like,
It depends.
maybe not everybody, but
we need to hear the rest
on.
before we
90% of the
agree.
world's probably going to say
when,
no.
when we were younger, it was a thing to jump off the bridges.
Yes.
Mm.
You know, like you'd go out and party, and maybe you were at a bar, maybe you weren't, but you'd go do a bridge jump.
You were the dude that did the double backflips, weren't you?
You know who was always a great backflipper is
Not me,
Jason
I penciled it.
Fickus.
I do that.
Oh.
Yeah, he loved to flip off of everything. He probably
That'd be a good
inspired
one
me
to have
to
on.
get into doing a lot
Yeah.
of backflipping.
He would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we also put summit registers at the top of a bunch of the bars around here. So there was a summit register on the top of Mountain State.
What's
That's
a
an
summit?
ASI. That's
I
an
don't know what
ASI
it
thing,
is.
right? Lee Skidmore
What's a summit?
did
Got me.
did some of those, didn't he?
Well, he may have created his own. I'm not sure. I
Okay.
feel like we started
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And maybe more was happening.
Sure.
But a summit register, so like when you climb a mountain, like a known peak, actually even Seneca Rocks down here has one, but there's usually a little box tucked somewhere in a place that can't get blown off the mountain by weather, and it may have
Oh, I know what you're
a
talking
trinket in there or a register to sign your name in.
They have one at that place in West Virginia down by Thomas. You walk to the top of the hill.
Seneca.
Seneca.
Yeah, on that side.
Literally what you just said. Thing.
So we thought it'd be fun to put them at the top of the roofs at the bars around here.
Awesome.
And if you drive around, one of them's out of commission now, but if we all remember the round bar
Round bar.
down
Yeah.
here, it had a stone fireplace going up the side. So we'd climb the stone fireplace and put it up on that little pagoda top. And Honey had a stone fireplace, and Mountain State was a little extra effort to get up on the top of there. But yeah, if you were privy, you would probably got on that summit register at one point in
Wow.
time.
Where are
Wow.
they? Where are
Anybody
these
have like the triple
records?
crown, like do them all in one night?
Ooh.
Well, we
That
You
you're
put
aware
seven
of.
out. Do the 7 summits of Deep Creek.
Well, there was the double triple crown, and
The
that
double.
was to do all the summit registers and then jump all 3 bridges.
Oh.
And there's only a
Damn.
couple nights where we were able to
Toothpick
pull
Bridge
that
is
off.
not scary. You can just hop off too.
But it's the only other bridge.
Yeah. Right.
And it is the one right beside the state park.
AKA DNR.
Yeah.
You do
Okay,
that one
okay,
last.
okay,
That way, if
okay.
you get caught, it doesn't ruin the other one.
Now they have cameras. If you're listening, just know that.
on all the bridges.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
at least 219 has
Yeah.
a camera.
Yeah, I don't know about
So don't
Glendale.
wear your license plate on your back when you jump
Is it
off.
illegal? Like it's
Yes.
illegal?
Yes.
I
Turns
don't
out-
think it used to be though. Did it? Did it like 10 or 15 years ago? Or was it just frowned upon?
I mean, so we ended up coming off a Glendale Bridge, jumping one night, and it was almost like clockwork. The cops were there immediately, and another one of our friendly
Oh, I do
agents
know this.
in the office didn't get off the bridge yet, so she was still up on the bridge, and two of us were in the water, and we ended up having to go underneath of a pontoon boat for
Hide.
a solid hour or more, shivering.
Pruny.
Yeah, a fall jump. And they got in a little bit of trouble, but I think really at that point in time, it was kind of more like skedaddle, kids. You know, you're annoying the people that live by the bridge, splashing and yelling.
See, I was early 20s. This has been 25 years ago. And I don't think it was illegal back then. It was me and, just in case I don't want to say his name, but me and a buddy of mine were walking across 219 Bridge. We had our bathing suits on at like 11:30 at night.
Where are you walking to?
Well, the round bar used to be there. So it was the best. When the round bar was there, you go and it is kind of sad it's not here anymore. The round bar was, for the listeners, it's kind of the,
Actually, that would be a whatever
old
the thing you're
memories of the
angry about.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
salty.
that's what you're salty about.
There's a salty Parker.
It was it was I don't know, I don't want to call it a dive bar, but it was the dive bar we all went to. I don't know. It was just a really, really fun bar. And you go there and we'd all get drunk or whatever. And it was 200 yards from the 219 bridge. So you get some drinks and of course in the summertime everybody gets to go jump off the bridge. And I just totally remember we left there and we were standing in the middle of the bridge and we had our bathing suits on, no shirt on, no nothing. We're obviously getting ready to jump. And a police car comes by. And I vividly remember this guy saying, "Hey, you boys aren't getting ready to jump, are you?" And we were like, "No!" And just jumped right off the bridge. And like nothing happened. I think that guy was like, "Oh, fuck them. I'm going home."
Yeah, right. I'm not getting involved here.
I don't think that was illegal. We didn't get arrested. I didn't hide from him. I was just the funniest thing. And I think I was the second person to jump maybe, but it was really like, "You guys aren't going to jump, are you?" And we both looked at each other like, "No."
Does it hurt from the 219 bridge?
I mean, if you
Glendale's
belly flopped, it
worse.
would probably be horrible.
One time I went in kind of
25,
looking.
30 feet.
Jesse does backflips and whatever. So I straight up pencil. Like I would just pencil down in there, and it's just me. But one time I remember thinking, well, I've got to be getting close to the water because you get a maybe 2-second fall, but it seems like 20 minutes. And I remember going like, did I hit my face? Don't look down.
man.
Like no, just pencil. I
Just
totally
close
remember
your
this.
eyes.
Number
I remember
one.
Nose.
Man, I've got to be getting close. Oh, that was a horrible
When-
decision.
when did
You
they-
are always going to hit the water
Yeah,
unless
knew it
you
was
start
coming.
flying.
Yeah.
When did they replace the bridge on 219? Was that a while ago, or have you
Yeah,
guys
that
ever
was a
jumped
while
off the
ago.
old bridge?
You used to. I only did it one time. You climb up on the cage and jump off there.
Oh,
And if that wasn't illegal, that should be illegal.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that was pretty shady. It had like a cage and probably shouldn't have done
It has to be 80s for 219 because I remember the old Glendale Bridge, so I would have like mid 90s maybe Glendale, but 219
was way
was
before Glendale.
yeah.
I don't remember 219. I remember Glendale.
Glendale,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't remember
Because they dropped a
219.
crane in the lake on Glendale. That'd be funny to figure that out. When they were building the Glendale
Really?
Bridge, one of the cranes fell in the lake, and the story is they never got it out. I don't know, but they definitely
Wait,
dropped
the
a
story
crane.
that I always heard was that there was like a little VW bug at the bottom of the Glendale Bridge.
Maybe.
A
Find it.
VW bug?
We'll
Yeah,
get
that's what
somebody
that's
out
called.
there,
Hmm.
but get a
Right?
scuba diver on the show and then have them
Yes.
Like a Volkswagen.
get in there.
I don't think you could see. Actually, I've been down about 15 feet. It gets a little bit clear down there, but I don't know. I don't think you can see.
Wintertime,
Oh yeah,
ice diving.
So I think we're getting to the end of this thing here. We probably got an hour and a half in. Anything else you'd like to say, or how do people find you? And do you want them to find you?
Wait. We've talked about your mom. We've talked about your dad. Tell us about Liz.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a lucky man. Right now, I was able to import a girlfriend from one of the most desirable places in the country, which would be
Did you bring her back from-
Asheville, North Carolina.
I thought this was
Mail
like a
order.
Russian bride story. When you said you were importing a girlfriend, I'm like, well, this is not the story I know.
Well, I didn't say where she originally came from.
Yeah. Tiger Claw.
No, but she, it was a beautiful story. To sum it up really quickly, we both had seen each other a lot on social media because when I lived in California, she was living in this area, but she was a kayaker and a climber. And
So she's doing the same stuff. She like
doing all the
stuff
same
like-
things, but she just happened to be way more beautiful than everybody else in the pictures. And I was like, gosh, who is that?
Nice.
And then I moved back, and she was no longer here, and she was in another part of Asheville. But the stars aligned, and we got into communication, and it turns out that this is actually the better place to be as a paddler than Asheville, North Carolina. And boy, they're going to want to murder me when I say that, but they know it's true. And
she's like, your house is where?
Yeah, she decided to move up here, and she is the local physician down here at the urgent care primary care in McHenry. So she's our
smart and
Oh,
dating
yeah.
you. What?
yeah. Well, somebody's got to have the brawn, and someone's got to have the brains.
Now back to what Mike was saying. So go ahead, Mike.
No, that's it. I was just going to say, anything else you want to say? And, if you want people to find you, where can they?
If people want to find me, they should come to Garrett County,
Yeah,
and they'll find me.
they'll find you.
Or Tibet or California or whatever.
And if they
listener-
do come, I would love to show them the Yaak River.
Listeners at home, obviously Jesse's a very cool dude. He knows Garrett County probably better than pretty much anyone. He also sells real estate for a living. So if you're interested in buying or selling real estate in the Deep Creek Lake area, give him a call.
Or the Friendsville area,
Or
or anything with
Friendsville,
rivers, recreation.
And I don't have your phone number memorized. You might want to tell him, or we'll put it on their website.
No, we'll link in the bio.
Just
Link
give him
in the
your
bio.
Just give me your Snap. I don't have Snapchat. I figured it out.
Me neither, actually.
At Jesse
holding out.
Shamrock.
All right. Nighty night.